Welcome back, everybody, to the Marketing Rules Live, our monthly webinar with me and the rest of the ThinkinCircles team. Today, I'm joined by Tayla, Fiona, and Chris. And today, we are going to talk a little bit around some of the topics and themes that we cover in our ebook called Owning the Conversation. If you haven't downloaded it already, you can find a link in the description. Pretty easy. You just go onto the ThinkinCircles website. It's right at the top. Stick in a few of your details. And you'll get the ebook kind of sent to you directly into your inbox. So we're going to kind of talk around some of the kind of themes around that today. Everybody here has read it more than once, hopefully. All kind of okay with it. We kind of live and breathe this stuff anyway. I think that was one of the reasons why I kind of put it together. It was trying to kind of understand and kind of verbalize the kind of methodology that we pretty much kind of work with our clients on a kind of daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And so trying to kind of capture all that into something that was kind of fairly digestible. So if we kind of crack on, right, we're going to talk around some of the kind of themes in there. So in ebook, we talk a little bit around kind of recruitment businesses being capable but forgettable. Why is capability no longer enough to make a brand stand out? Why is it not there? You can be good at it. You can be a great recruiter, but just not particularly memorable with everything else that's kind of going on in our kind of socials and marketing, etc. Fiona, go on. You were going to.
No, I was just going to say there are so many recruitment businesses out there, and they're all struggling for their footprint, and it does feel like there's oversupply. Is there oversupply? It does feel like there's oversupply, but under definition at times. And the ebook talks a lot about that. So it is what you stand for, what's your voice, etc. Yeah.
I think that the stats are something like, if we just take the UK, there's 30,000 recruitment agencies at kind of like ranging from incredibly every kind of like household names from the people who kind of have are on the high street all the way through to lots and lots of one-man, two-man bands, people kind of working out of bedrooms and home offices and things like that. So you're right, there is this just kind of there's a lot of business out there, right? I think there's something like the recruitment industry employs 150, 200,000 people in the UK, and it makes up 0.5 or 0.05 of the workforce. It's in the grand scheme of things, it's actually quite significant, right? I know that doesn't sound a huge amount, but that's just the kind of UK out of the kind of 65 million people or something there are in the UK, right? That's actually quite a kind of a fair chunk of recruiters. That's just recruitment agencies. That doesn't include people that are in HR or in TA and that kind of side. So you're right. There is just this. It's a pretty small pond, and there's a lot of fish in it, basically. And keeping your head above water and kind of staying kind of relevant is one thing. Being memorable is the other thing, right? And everyone's going to always say they're capable, right? Everybody says they're this, that, and the other. But how do you kind of make sure that you stand out? What is it that's going to know? Why can't you stand out? Chris, I can see you nodding away.
I was just going to say, well, you guys are going to hit the nail on the head there. It seems like recruitment has grown massively, right? But the way that recruitment agencies describe themselves and sell themselves haven't. It's been very slow. And I think we can say, because we see it day in, day out, the same people are selling themselves in the same way. Then they care about what we do. We have relationships, we build strong relationships, we have deep sector knowledge and things like that, and it's like, okay, we've seen that a million times, but repetition is good when you're doing your messaging, which I'm sure we'll get onto. But when you're trying to stand out from other people, you're doing your research and you're seeing that time and time and time again on every single website. So I think you guys are right. Everybody is trying to fight for this little piece of pie that they can get, and it's so saturated in terms of recruitment agencies. You need to stand out, and that needs to adapt, right? And how you're selling yourself needs to adapt. And I think a lot of agencies haven't right now, and I think that's what they need to move into doing.
Yeah, I agree. There's a kind of sameness, right? When you just kind of say that every business hopefully strives to be kind of like have exceptional service and strong relationships and sector knowledge, that's the minimum you would expect from a recruiter that you work with. And literally, 99.9% of recruitment agency websites and their literature and their content is just reiterating the same thing. So everybody's basically saying exactly the same thing, which is why a lot of businesses just can't put their head above water and stand out, because you're just you're comparing like for like continuously. Tayla, is there anything you kind of want to add?
Yes, of course. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. Firstly, sorry about my cats. They're having a little go here. But I definitely think that also one of the important things is that capable but forgettable does not necessarily mean that the business lacks value. It means that the value has not been translated into a belief or point of view the market can hold on to. So being good at what you do does not guarantee that your market knows exactly why to choose you.
Yeah, and your cats seem to agree as well.
Yes, no, definitely. I really apologize for this.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's the joy of working remotely.
Exactly. So one of the things that I think sometimes is seen as a easy and quick fix is that more content is the way to fix the problem, right? But actually, we talk about this in the ebook. Why more content can make the problem actually a lot worse. We talk around the ideas that it can become the problem rather than the solution, that just amplifying this same message again and again and again, which again is just that you are a great, you've got deep sector knowledge, all this kind of stuff. Just saying that over and over again doesn't get you above water. What is that? Are we agree on that, or do we think that there's what could be a possible solution there?
Can I have a go at that one?
Sure, go for it, Taylor.
Okay, so I feel that the real problem begins when a business uses more activity to avoid making a clearer strategic decision. So posting more can create the feeling of momentum, but it does not automatically make the brand easier to understand. So the content can distribute a message, but it cannot rescue a message that is already unclear. If the business has not decided what it wants to be known for, every new post can introduce a different topic or a promise or opinion. The market sees a lot of activity, but it does not build like a strong association with that brand because they're continuously introducing new things. That is why content should reinforce the conversation the business has chosen to own. It should keep proving and expanding the same central belief rather than allowing that content calendar to decide what the brand talks about week to week. And a practical example of that would be an agency posting interview tips, vacancy updates, awareness days, and motivational content almost every single day. So the page does look very active, but the audience still cannot explain what that agency exactly stands for. And then there would be another business that may post way less often, but every piece reinforces that one clear point of view. And that business at the end of the day is most likely to be remembered instead of the one who's posting much more.
Yeah. I mean, the ebook refers to this idea of the mechanism of memory, and I absolutely love that. So that just reiterates exactly what you're talking about there. So it is who you are, what you want to be known as, and does your content constantly reinforce that idea? And then we've all seen it. This sort of the AIification, AI slop. Should I bring that up?
Yeah.
But we've all seen, people's time is busy. So what adds value from a content perspective? Yeah. So yeah.
I was going to say, in terms of like content, I think people strive to be doing more and more and more, where I think sometimes less is more. I think that, so we see quite a few agencies that are busy fools, I think, just because they are doing loads. They think, great, we look at all this content we're getting out. But it's looking at, okay, is it converting? What's happening with it? You know, you're putting all this content out, great. Like you touched on, Tayla, you know, you could be looking and doing your research of a business and you think, wow, yeah, they're posting a lot on LinkedIn, for example. When you look at it, it's like, oh, like, what are you actually saying? What is your message? What is it? And that's the kind of caveat of being a busy fool, I guess, isn't it? You're foolish by not saying anything at all. You're speaking a lot, but not saying anything. And it's kind of, you know, you need to go back to, as a business, I think, and I think this should happen quite often as a business, in recruitment or not, that you go back to your roots and you think, okay, why are we here? What do we do? Why do we do what we do? Why do we love what we do? What do we put back into the recruitment agency business, the industry? You know, what are we doing differently than other recruiters are doing? Because I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, like you said earlier, there are 30,000 recruitment agencies in the UK. Unfortunately, when you get down to the basics, everybody's doing exactly the same thing in terms of you're finding somebody and you're putting them into a role, and that's kind of that. I don't want to sound like I'm kind of poo-pooing what recruitment agencies do, because I don't, but it's that understanding, okay, I'm going up against other recruitment agencies who are essentially doing exactly the same thing as I'm doing day in, day out. What makes me different? Why am I doing it differently? Am I giving back? How do I do, how is my service different, I guess? So, yeah, there's lots to look at. Sorry, I just kind of brain dumped then.
No. It all makes sense, and it is kind of the part of the solution to overcoming, you know, that point. So yeah.
Can I just make a point?
Oh yeah, go for it, Fiona. Yeah.
Just with regards to content, the thing is with content, it can all be tracked. So you can look at engagement. You can look at what is providing those clicks, what isn't providing that time on site, etc. So you're constantly able to A/B test your content. So it's this whole idea that, oh, we're just throwing out content there, but we don't know what's coming back. Well, you can track visits to your website. You can then track those visitors and where they're going on your website. So there are options, and you can do a lot of that through some free tools or some, you know, but yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. So if we kind of move on to the next point, which is kind of linked, is around kind of the sales conversation and the client or potential client understanding more about your business before they've even ever kind of picked up the phone, right? Yeah. So one of the most important ideas that we kind of discuss in the ebook is around that, is around authority being built before you have a call with them, before you've delivered anything for a client, even before you even picked up the phone, and they might have, you picked up the phone to them you to them, etc., etc. You know, so if that's the kind of scenario that, you know, you are already putting out a position and a message before your potential clients has even kind of got done anything with you, what does that actually mean for a recruitment business? How do they tackle that? What do they do to overcome that? How do they make sure that, you know, when someone does pick up the phone to them, one, they pick up the phone in the first place, and two, they make sure that they've kind of got the right idea of what that business really kind of stands for. So all this stuff kind of leading up to even prior to a call, you know, how do you tackle that as a recruitment agency?
Firstly, about getting a marketing agency.
That always helps, right? That always helps.
Absolutely, doesn't it? No, but I think, again, it's kind of going back to that. Okay, what is our message and how do we get it out there? And I think, you know, recruitment is a pretty, for a company, it's a high ticket item, isn't it, in terms of buying? Like, you know, when was the last time any of us bought something over £100, £200, whatever it might be, and didn't do any research on the company or the item before buying it? That in kind of 2026, that never happens. Like, if I'm even buying a pair of shoes, I'm like, okay, what's this brand? What are they doing? How are they doing it? What, you know, are they giving back? You know, and you do your research, don't you? You look at who that brand is, who that company is, what they're doing as well. And I think, you know, you'd be stupid to think that they've just Googled you come up first and they've just picked up the phone and called you and said, that'll do. That doesn't happen, right? And yeah, I think it's again going back to basics and looking at what you're doing and kind of putting that together in terms of what is hard-hitting content as well. Because, you know, not all content was created the same. You know, putting out as a special day for this, that, and the other is not the same as a case study or something that you've actually done. Tangible kind of selling experience. So yeah, that's what I would look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think, you know, previously, you know, the things that you may have kind of thought would build trust with a client, you might kind of embargo until certain points in the sales cycle. But I think that's kind of gone out the window a little bit, and we do discuss some of that kind of in the book. That for a long time you've had funnels, you've had flywheels, and things like that, where you embargo content until someone falls into a certain point in that arbitrary journey that you have decided that they are going to go on, as opposed to the journey that the potential client is going to go on. So having that stuff out there that builds trust and authority right from the start, as opposed to halfway through whatever your intended journey was, I think is now something of the past. So as an example, you may have kind of kept case studies until a certain point. Well, you know, you don't need to now. You're right. Yeah, everything should be out there, and people should be able to consume it in the way that they want to consume it, as long as it's always reinforcing your kind of message, basically, because that's those are the touch points that are going to build trust before someone even again picks up the phone. Whether those are reviews, whether those are case studies, whether that's research, whether that's anything, you know, those authority signals that you can stick out there are the stuff that you want kind of out there as soon as possible, tailored to your chosen audience, basically. Yeah. Tayla.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to both what you and Chris said. So that is why marketing is just not simply about generating a lead and passing it over to the sales team. The strong marketing gives that buyer the language for the problem, shows that the business understands the commercial consequence, and makes the eventual sales conversation feel like a continuation rather than a cold introduction. And then in the ebook, you refer it to when a circle is working, and the market arrives already warmed by the business's thinking. The salesperson can then begin at a higher level because authority has already been built through everything the buyer has seen beforehand.
Yeah, I agree. And this is something we try and do in the business all the time, right? One of our services is called kind of authority building, right? And it is around kind of trying to position businesses into a state where they've kind of done 20% of the work before someone actually kind of picks up the call, right? You know, so it's just that continuation. And yeah, we refer to it as a circle, but it is really just kind of, it's all that kind of content floating around in like an ecosystem, right? That's kind of what that really kind of refers to. Fiona, anything to add, or should we move on?
No, let's move on.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing, and I promise it won't be long?
Sure.
With content as well, us marketers fall into it, business owners fall into it all the time. We see every piece of content that goes out. So we might think, oh, we're talking about the same thing over and over and over again. And it kind of goes back to the funnel, right? Where we like, oh, let's save this case study for certain. No, because every piece of content you go out, your audience isn't going to see. They're not going to see every single LinkedIn post, Instagram post, Twitter post, X. They're not going to see every single email that you put out. Some of them might get lost in an inbox or whatever. So you have to be aware as well that not everything you put out as a business is going to be seen by your audience.
Yeah. And people on different channels at different times and all that kind of stuff, different times of the day, all that kind of stuff, all that kind of cool stuff. Okay, so let's kind of similar, but let's take a slightly kind of different kind of approach. So in the book, we talk about kind of brand clarity, which is directly linked to kind of commercial value, right? So price becomes this shortcut for recruitment businesses when they don't really have a clear position. And this works on both sides. You know, we've talked about this actually on the webinar before, that when you don't have a clear message, when you look the same as everybody else, when you're being compared, you're compared on the things that you can be compared on, which can become price, basically, right? When someone is kind of shopping around, whether that is whether you're a consumer when you're buying kind of your new pair of shoes or trainers or whatever else, or when you are a recruitment business as well. If you all stay the same thing, there's something that's got to be the kind of point of difference, and that tends to be sometimes your margins, right? So what do we do to kind of overcome that? What is the kind of that's the kind of how do we overcome that? How do we get around that? What's the rationale behind that? Is there anything we can do about that?
Yeah, I think there's always something you can do about that, right? And I think that's where the whole messaging comes into it, right? It shows you as a business. I'm sure in 2026 we're kind of conscious buyers, right? All of us, and especially going to like the fashion industry, a lot of people are moving away from fast fashion, for example, because they know that it's not good for the environment, it's not good for the planet, and people are willing to pay a little bit more because they know they're also getting quality. They know, when the experience, for example, the shopping experience, you go into a nice shop, for example. I think that's the same with kind of recruitment, isn't it? What in terms of communication and things, what can you offer as a service? The amount of times that I'm sure we've all seen that there's a massive gap between what recruitment agencies do in terms of communication during the whole process of placing a candidate, for example. There's probably weeks go in between sometimes, and it's things like that, small things like that shows what you can do to kind of improve your quality of service. And then it's looking at that and how do you kind of sell that? How do you get that across? How do you tell people that you go above and beyond, right? Or what that means. And
I agree.
I think, sorry, I was just going to say, I think that kind of helps you so you don't have to compete on price. People know what they're paying for.
Yeah, when a brand is vague, it means that it's very hard to justify a premium. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But also, it doesn't necessarily need to be always a premium, right? I think again, one of the things we discuss in the book, is it's every business doesn't need to be Apple, right? You don't have to have that, right? Again, owning the conversation means owning the conversation in your lane, right? Where you sit. If you're a volume recruiter, right, then do what you do and do it really well, and talk about that kind of that way of working, the benefits of all of that, and the businesses you want to work with, the successes you've had with those businesses, the research around the pay gaps within those places, and the new changes in legislation. All that kind of stuff can help you. You don't have to. Everyone doesn't need to be aiming for being this high-end search and selection business, right? It doesn't need to be the Apple of the businesses. It can quite happily be kind of like on the volume side as well. So this is always about kind of being a premium product. It's about being a valuable product, which is something slightly different, right? I think so. Yeah, Tayla, I'm sure you've got something to add.
Actually, I am very prepared for the next question, so I'm ready for that. I feel like you guys have covered almost everything that I took from the ebook as well. So
yeah. But I mean, the point being, but I think really with it around this is that if you are saying the same thing as everyone else, what is the one thing that a potential client can judge you on, or even an existing client potentially as well? And if that's price, then your margins are going to get beaten down. If you start to look a bit different, and if you start to kind of own in the conversation, you can generally protect your margins, because you can say to a client, well, we know this space, we know these clients, we know these candidates, we know what you want trying to do better than anyone else. And here's all the proof, here's all the social proof we've got out there, here's everything we've kind of got that we talk around to prove that, so you can kind of trust us. And that's why you can kind of protect your margins. Okay, so if we move on to kind of one of our last questions. In ebook, obviously it's called Owning the Conversation. And I think we've kind of covered a little bit this way, but what does owning the conversation actually look like in kind of practical terms? And I think it's a combination plus a few other bits that we have kind of discussed. Now, Tayla, I know you've obviously prepared something for this, so maybe you want to kind of kick off with the answers.
Yes, please. So in my opinion, owning the conversation means becoming the business your market associates with a particular way of seeing an important problem. It is not about speaking on every topic, being louder than everybody else, or creating controversy for attention. It begins with choosing something commercially meaningful that the business understands very deeply. What does it disagree with in the recruitment market? What accepted behavior is creating a consequence that other people are actually overlooking? That becomes the tension the brand can keep challenging. The word used in the ebook that really matters here is referenced. The goal is not actually only for people to recognize the logo or remember seeing a post. It is for them to borrow the language, repeat the argument to somebody else, or bring the business into a conversation because its thinking has helped them understand the problem. That takes patience and obviously repetition. The business has to keep reinforcing the same belief through its content, sales, conversations, proof, and behavior until the market begins to connect it with that idea automatically.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? It's kind of owning that narrative, building that long-term authority, and coming back to that kind of memory aspect as well. Kind of continually just always being. I know I don't like the term top of mind because I've said it so many times, but yeah, let's call it brand memory or something like that, right? Instead, Chris.
I haven't got much to add to that. Tayla's just absolutely nailed it.
She's nailed it, right? Yeah.
I told you guys I was really prepared for that question.
Do you want to move on to another one?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. Yes, probably let's make this our kind of make this our last question for the day. So, in the ebook, we talk clearly around a brand cannot own the conversation externally if the team is not aligned internally, right? Yeah. So why does that internal alignment matter so much within recruitment business and brand? I think everyone's kind of like taking a huge sigh. I think everybody knows how important this really is, right? You know, so Fiona, you seem the most animated, so I'm going to hand this over to you.
We've all been there. We've all been there. So everybody needs to be pulling in the right direction. And we've all been there where either it's top down or bottom up or whatever way it works, but it's never. You all need to be on the same page. And I don't know how to say that less directly. No. You just need to be on the same page. And it starts internally. Because if there's inconsistency in the language, in how you refer to yourself, in how you approach clients, when your website talks about A, but you're talking about B, it's that whole... And it's just the fact that, that now it's my dog, Tayla, let's make it, it's barking. It's that whole thing where recruiters are representing your brand and their own brand. You know, it's just that consistency at all times. It's also interlinked.
Yeah.
That was a very rambling answer. I apologize.
No, but the point was there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Got there eventually.
Inconsistency ruins the trust that people have in your brand. If somebody's talking to to a consultant, one consultant, and then they speak to another consultant, and the messaging is completely different, and all the tone and things like that, the brand is completely off, then people think, who am I talking to? Like, you know, and again, we see this so often, don't we? That, you know, management, BD, people who are kind of going out there and winning business, for example, very often have a different view of the business than resources and things like that. And I think everybody needs to be on the same page with how conversations need to be had, tone of voice needs to be had, and just like what your brand and business is and what it stands for and what it does. Just like, I hate to refer it, but like Disney, for example, as a business, you would never go into a shop, into a park or anything else and think, oh, someone I'm going to speak to who works this business is going to be miserable, because they're not. Like, everything Disney is all smiles and happiness and all that kind of stuff, isn't it? Which is a bit sickening, but you would never expect to have a bad experience or someone unhappy or miserable. Like, you would just expect that. And I think that's what you need to get to. Obviously, you're not going to be a Disney in your recruitment agency, but you might do, who speak to us, we might get you there. But, you know, it's just that, isn't it? What you're portraying online, what you portray externally needs to be internal as well.
I think we say something around like the market is not going to remember your message if the team can't remember the message and they don't know on board, right? And there's there's a book, and I don't read many kind of business books because I'm not a fan, but there's a book by older book now by a guy called Jim Collins called Good to Great, where he talks about being on the bus or off the bus, right? If everybody needs to be on the bus, basically going in the same direction, all in the same little kind of metal tube, all pushing in the same direction, basically. And that's what you kind of need to make your marketing own the conversation, basically. That's how it should be. Right. I think we're going to kind of wrap up. Is there anything anyone else wants to add before we kind of wrap up for today?
I just want to add that I don't want anyone to listen to the answers of our last question and assume that alignment means forcing everyone in their team to sound scripted. I feel like a lot of people maybe jump to going to AI and being like, give us a tone of voice, and then they kind of shove it down their team members' throats. And you can obviously see that in so many LinkedIn posts. So please don't do that to your team members.
Yeah, when there's always room for
ThinkinCircles, and we'll help you.
Oh, exactly, totally. Yeah. Just get a decent marketing agency on board to help you out. There's always room for maneuver within these things, right? You know, you want personalities as well, right? And opinions like that. So I think we're going to kind of wrap up. We've just gone over the kind of 30-minute mark. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. Obviously, this has been the Marketing Rules Live with me and the rest of the ThinkinCircles team. If you are interested to know more about us, you can go to thinkincircles.com. You can also see the description and find the link to the ebook in the description. So if you want to download that, read that, hand over a few details, it's just kind of your email and those kinds of things, all the kind of things you would expect us to ask for, because you ain't going to get it for free. Basically, we want something back. We want just a little bit of your information, a little bit of your data for all the time and hard work we put into building the ebook. So thank you very much. We'll be back again next month. It might be us, it might be some of the other kind of members in the team. But until then, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.